You know, when you picture the absolute pinnacle of athletic perfection, like the kind of conditioning that prevents catastrophic injuries and creates just superhuman performance, you probably picture a weight room.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The traditional image of durability usually relies heavily on, mass and raw power.
Right, like chalk, heavy iron, sweat, and just a whole lot of grunting, basically.
Yeah, we tend to associate injury prevention with building this sort of thicker armor around the joints, like to get bigger and stronger.
But what if the actual secret to athletic perfection, and really the key to avoiding those major career-ending sports injuries, wasn't found in a squat rack at all?
Yeah, it's a completely different paradigm.
Exactly. What if it was found on a ballet stage? So today, we are doing a deep dive into a really paradigm-shifting presentation from Dr. Christophe Delong and Kinexa. It's titled Georges Balanchine, l'architecte du corps néoclassique, which translates to the architect of the neoclassical body.
And they've done something just remarkable with this research. I mean, they've taken the artistic philosophy of the legendary ballet choreographer Georges Balanchine and completely transformed it into a cutting-edge biomechanical framework for modern athletes.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. But to understand how we get from, a tutu to a football field, we really have to rethink Balanchine entirely. Dr. DeLong and Kinexa position him not just as an artist, but as a brilliant structural engineer of the human body.
And Balanchine famously said that ballet should be seen, not understood. Which is such a wild thing for a legendary artist to say. I mean, usually artists want you to deeply analyze the hidden narrative meaning of their work, right?
Right, yeah, they want you searching for metaphors and hidden messages.
Exactly.
But for Balanchine, the truth wasn't hidden in some abstract story. He believed that the truth of a gesture is found entirely in its physical geometry.
The geometry, like the actual math of it?
Yes, the precision of the angles, the length of the lever arms, the clarity of the lines in space. That was the truth for him. In 1964, he famously stated that dance is music made visible.
Okay, that sounds incredibly poetic, but knowing what we know about his engineering mindset, he probably meant that quite literally.
Oh, very literally.
Yeah.
He wasn't just having his dancers move to the music, sort of, swaying along to a beat like you or I might do in our living room.
Right, hopefully nobody's watching me do that.
Same here. But no, he was treating the human body as a readable physical score. Kinexa actually calls this concept gesture as a score.
Gesture as a score. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so every musical accent in a piece of music corresponded to a precise geometric shape for Balanchine. He was literally translating the music into physical architecture.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit, though. Because if we're talking about pure math creating beauty, I mean, isn't art supposed to be emotional and spontaneous?
That's the common assumption, yeah.
Right, because if it's just cold, hard angles and structural equations, doesn't it lose its soul? It starts to sound a bit, robotic, I guess.
Well, that assumes emotion and geometry are opposites, which Balanchine proved is an entirely false dichotomy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In his world, if a dancer's arm is slightly misaligned, say off by just 2 or 3 degrees, it doesn't just look aesthetically displeasing to the eye. It literally ruptures the continuity of the embodied musical phrase.
Huh.
The awe you feel when you watch a masterful ballet performance, it doesn't happen in spite of the math. The emotion comes directly from the geometric perfection.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's like a perfectly tuned piano chord. Like when the frequencies are mathematically precise, the chord resonates emotionally, right? It gives you chills.
Exactly, yeah.
But when it's mathematically out of tune, it just grates on your ears. So the geometry actually creates the grace.
That is the exact mechanism at play here. And if beauty and grace are fundamentally matters of structural engineering, well, that dictates the actual physical shape a person needs to have to execute those movements optimally.
Okay, so that brings us to the classic ballet body stereotype, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The long legs, a short trunk, a long neck, and thin limbs. Balanchine was famously strict about that.
He was notoriously specific about the body types he wanted in his company.
Hmm.
And historically, critics and even dance historians thought this was just a superficial preference for a certain visual aesthetic, like he just liked how it looked.
Right.
But Dr. DeLong and Kinexa's presentation completely recontextualizes this requirement. This was pure mechanical optimization based on a fundamental physics equation,
And which equation is that?
the moment of force. So torque equals force multiplied by distance.
Okay, let's ground that in reality for a second so we can all visualize it. Like, if you think about pushing open a massive, heavy oak door, right?
Sure.
If you try to push it open from right next to the hinges, it takes a monumental amount of muscular effort. You are just straining to move it an inch.
Right, you're fighting the physics.
Yeah, but if you push near the handle, like the furthest possible point from the hinge, the door swings open easily. So the distance from the hinge to where you apply force, that is your lever arm.
That is the perfect analogy for what is happening inside the dancer's body. So if a dancer has incredibly long legs, they possess a naturally longer lever arm.
Okay.
Applying the exact same muscular force as a dancer with shorter legs, while the longer lever arm produces a much higher moment of force.
Meaning they get a massive output for the exact same input.
Exactly.
Wow. So when you see a dancer effortlessly leaping across the stage looking like they're, floating suspended in the air, it's not because they are somehow vastly stronger than an Olympic weightlifter.
No.
They are literally leveraging their physical proportions to amplify their force. They've essentially put the handle as far from the hinge as genetically possible.
That's brilliant, yes. And the rest of the Balanchine body fits this optimization perfectly as well.
Yeah.
A short trunk minimizes the central mass the body has to haul around, maximizing overall efficiency.
Makes sense.
And then thin limbs reduce rotational inertia.
Which makes total sense if you picture a figure skater spinning on the ice. Like when they pull their arms in tight to their body, they spin exponentially faster. Less mass out on the extremities means far less resistance to rotation.
Precisely. Thinner limbs allow for faster, more precise gestures. And this biomechanical reality is really the foundation of Kinexa's methodology for modern athletes.
Because Kinexa isn't training ballet dancers, right? They are working with elite sports professionals.
Exactly. They map these exact individual lever arms for the athletes they train. So by measuring the unique anthropometry of, say, a football player or a tennis pro or a sprinter, they adapt the entire training program based on that athlete's specific mechanical levers.
That completely flips how we think about athletic training. I mean, you aren't just giving every single linebacker on the team the exact same squat program or telling them to run a drill the exact same.
No, you can't, because their bodies are structurally different.
Right. You are looking at a 250-pound defender and assessing his structural levers the exact same way a ballet master would assess a prima ballerina. You figure out where his specific hinges are, where his handles are, and you teach him how to exploit them.
That's it exactly. But having optimal levers is only half the battle, though. Because how an athlete controls those levers in time and space, well, that's where the true mastery and the extreme danger lies.
Oh, the danger. Okay, let's get into that.
Balanchine demanded absolute articular precision. He would famously rehearse ballets holding a stopwatch.
Wait, really? A stopwatch for a dance rehearsal?
Oh, yeah. To him, timing was purely mechanical. If a gesture is late, it creates tension in the body, it overloads the joint, and it ruptures the motor phrase.
Wow. It's like dropping a single frame in a high-definition video. You might barely notice it consciously, but the whole system stutters. The illusion of perfect fluidity is just broken.
That's a great way to put it. And he was just as strict about the spatial angles, too.
Really? How strict?
Ruthless. If an arm was supposed to be at exactly 90 degrees, he would not accept it at 95 degrees. That deviation is a geometric stutter.
Wow.
And Kinexa evaluates an athlete's neuromotor score with that exact same rigor. They use advanced biomechanical tracking to map the key joints, so the knees, hips, ankles, shoulders, down to a precision of plus or minus 1 degree.
Plus or minus 1 degree. In the middle of a dynamic, explosive movement like a sprint or a tackle. That is a staggering level of detail.
It really is. They compare the athlete's actual movement angles to biomechanically established optimal angles. They measure the fluidity of the sequence, looking for the absence of timing ruptures, and the continuity of the physical trajectories.
So they are essentially reading the athlete's movement through time and space the exact way Balanchine read a complex Stravinsky score.
Perfectly said.
But, on a ballet stage, if a dancer drops a frame or hits 95 degrees instead of 90, it's a bad performance. Maybe they get a harsh review in the morning paper. But on a playing field, or a basketball court, as Dr. Delong points out, that geometric stutter has much more devastating consequences.
Yeah, much more. Dr. Delong and Kinexa draw a direct correlation between musical dissonance and catastrophic sports injuries.
Musical dissonance.
Yeah. Their philosophy is beautifully summarized by a central idea from the presentation, which is a wrong note in a musical score is a dissonance, but a wrong note in a neuromotor score is an announced injury.
An announced injury? Wow. Like, the fuse is already lit. We're just waiting for the explosion.
Exactly.
Let's paint a picture of what this actually looks like for you, the listener, whether you're watching a game on Sunday or doing squats in your own gym later today. Think about a rapid change of direction on a turf field. Like an athlete plants their foot incredibly hard to cut left.
Okay, so if that athlete's knee bends to 92 degrees and they have 3 degrees of valgus, meaning the knee caves inward just slightly under the pressure.
See, a traditional strength coach might look at that game tape and say, well, it's 92 degrees, not 90, and there's a tiny bit of inward cave. It's fine. I mean, he made the play and got the first down.
Right, but Kinexa argues that it is emphatically not fine. That tiny, seemingly insignificant deviation completely shifts the mechanical load.
How so?
Well, when a knee caves inward by even 3 degrees under extreme force, the surrounding musculature can no longer absorb the kinetic energy efficiently. The lever arms we talked about earlier are now completely out of alignment.
Oh, I see.
And that energy doesn't just disappear, right? It transfers directly into shear force across the ligaments, specifically the ACL.
Ouch. So the giant thigh muscles are supposed to take the brunt of the force, but because the geometric angle is wrong, the force bypasses the muscle entirely and just violently yanks on a delicate ligament that is absolutely not designed to handle it.
Exactly. That 92 degrees with 3 degrees of valgus is an ACL tear waiting for the exact right context to snap. The dissonance broke the structural system.
You know, this really challenges a narrative we absolutely love in sports culture.
Oh, big time.
We constantly praise athletes for, like, muscling through a chaotic play or grinding through a heavy deadlift even when their form is visibly falling apart. We call it grit. We put it in highlight reels with dramatic music.
We do, yeah.
But if we look at Kinexa's data, muscling through is the exact opposite of what an athlete should be doing. By muscling through a bad position, they aren't demonstrating strength. They are forcing a dissonance. They're basically guaranteeing their own future injury.
That's a profound realization. Muscling through relies entirely on brute force to overcome poor mechanics. True athletic greatness, though, relies on what Kinexa defines as structural efficiency.
Structural efficiency. Break that down for us.
This means using exactly the necessary muscles in the correct sequence at the exact right intensity. A movement that is geometrically sound never needs to be forced. It exploits the body's natural levers instead of fighting against them.
So Kinexa has essentially taken Balanchine's intuitive, artistic genius for geometry and operationalized it into a tangible, measurable framework for modern sports.
Yes, they have 3 main pillars for this.
Okay, what are they?
First, joint angle precision mapping. They meticulously map the exact joint angles to catch that dangerous valgus before it snaps the ligament.
Right.
Second, the lever arm efficiency score. They calculate a customized efficiency score based on the athlete's individual lever arms, so nobody's fighting their own anatomy.
That's so smart.
And third, movement phrase coherence. They ensure the entire phrase of movement is coherent with no millisecond delays that cause joint tension.
So when all of those elements align, the angles, the levers, the timing, brute force is entirely replaced by structural harmony.
Exactly. Brute force becomes unnecessary.
You know, I think this is a massive aha moment for me, and hopefully for you listening. When you sit on your couch and watch a truly elite athlete, like a basketball player gliding to the hoop, a tennis player serving, a wide receiver catching a pass on a full sprint, and you think, wow, they are so graceful, it's not just a poetic compliment.
No, it's science.
Right. We aren't just saying they look pretty in motion. Grace is actually a highly measurable metric of biomechanical efficiency and safety.
That's the core of it. Grace is the literal absence of structural dissonance.
The absence of dissonance.
Yeah. When you see an athlete who looks completely effortless, who seems to glide over the turf and, rarely suffers non-contact injuries, you are witnessing pure geometric accuracy. You are seeing the Balanchine ideal successfully applied to high-stakes human performance. Grace is efficiency.
Man, to think the key to keeping a 250-pound linebacker's knees intact was already figured out by a neoclassical ballet choreographer decades ago is just incredible.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
We've bridged 2 seemingly opposite worlds today. We started with the artistic vision of George Balanchine, who saw dancers as mechanical levers designed to make the geometry of music visible.
And we follow that logic through Kinexa's scientific lens, seeing how a structural deviation of just a few degrees or delay of a few milliseconds is the literal root cause of catastrophic athletic injury.
Yeah, whether it's choreographing Stravinsky on a stage or a modern athlete optimizing a change of direction on a turf field, the truth remains exactly the same. True grace is simply the result of accurate geometry.
Well said.
And if this framework has sparked your curiosity, there's a wealth of material to explore. You can dive much deeper into these concepts in the Kinexa ebook titled Valenchine, la géométrie de la grâce, Le Visionnaire du Geste, which is episode 32 in their series. You can also explore their training and presentations through Kinexa's platform to see exactly how these data points are actively mapped out for athletes.
It forces a total reevaluation of how we view strength and durability.
It really does.
And if grace is purely a result of accurate geometry and structural efficiency, we really have to ask how this applies beyond the stadium or the stage.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Like, could any everyday human movement, from the way you walk down the street to picking up your child to just reaching for a cup of coffee, could that be geometrically optimized?
Well, imagine never having to muscle through your own life. Just pure, accurate geometry protecting your joints every single day.
It would change everything about how we age and move.
Definitely something to think about the next time you bend down to tie your shoes.
Thanks for diving deep with us.